Hello, class. This is Mr. McNellis again. I'm going for my third video, and I'm trying a different program. So I'll probably be trying out different programs for a while until I find the right one. But now in this one, we're on Worksheet 2. I just want to walk through Worksheet 2 so each and every one of you have an idea what's happening and how you can see how I think about it, and then kind of match that up with how you think about it. Next video will be Worksheet 3, and that's where we do mapping. And I know a lot of you have a problem with mapping, and I would say don't worry. Many students have problems mapping, but to me that's like probably the most important skill. But you can't map until you understand how to do Worksheet 2. So let's look at Worksheet 2, and what you want to do here, right, is you want to indicate, first of all, and here we'll write this down here, okay, right? We want to indicate all the indicator words, and we talked about those. And in this um, particular worksheet, let me erase that. Again, I'm just getting used to this here. There we go. Notice, notice I want to look at all indicator words right here, okay? And there are two different types, okay? You've got your traditional, right? And you've got your suggestive. Now, what's very important here is not every one of these is going to have, I mean, some may have a traditional premise and a suggestive premise. Some will only have one or the other. Some won't have any at all. So again, they just give you some space over here, right, to put down the answer. But that's, again, if there are none, you just put NA. If not, I mean, if there are some, you put some. So if we look at traditional premises, we go through this, okay, and I'm just going to do a quick glance. And what I notice first off, right, is I see given that. Given that, of course, is a traditional premise. So what I would do is I would write that there. Okay, high sugars are high in refined sugars, and notice that we have an and we have an also. The body cannot process refined sugars in healthy ways. So what I notice here is suggestive premise words do include words like and, okay, and also. And why is that the case? Because again, any word that indicates adding new information to the passage will most likely be a premise. Why? Because every argument has one conclusion, and if there's one conclusion, that means any additional information that you add will in fact involve adding evidence and not adding another conclusion. But that's not always the case. I mean, in the case sense here, that's how I could use the word and, like, hey, it's raining out, and therefore, right, I'll bring my umbrella. In that case, there's an and, but it's not. But it's also being trumped by the word therefore, which is a conclusion. So again, it's just suggestive. It's not necessarily the case. And so when I think about, when I go through this, right, I'm looking down here, and I go, ooh, this is going to be interesting. I don't want to move that. Okay, so there's that. And so there we go. That's that page. Okay, let me go ahead and erase these. This is going to be interesting. Given that, I'm going to just kind of scroll down. So let's see what we got here. Move here. And okay, so when we look at premises, what you're doing here, when you go up to the thing, not only are you identifying them, okay, but you also want to write the premise and the conclusion. So when you write the premise and the conclusion, that's what you're going to do right here, okay? And how do I know what goes here, okay? This is obviously going to be the premises. So when we move back up, okay, what you're going to have is, right, what I always like to do is I like to number statements. Okay, and then we had given that, right, 2, right, and also, and this is statement 3. So I noticed that there are 3 statements. Now, when I actually look at this, if I think about it, I'm really looking at a structure that looks like this. I'm looking at 1, and here, let me just write this out. Given that 2 and 3. Okay. What I notice here is because the word given that, this sets up a structure. 1 has to be the conclusion, and 2 and 3 have to be the premises. So that's really helpful because then, knowing I'm just going to keep that there, if I come over here, I'm going to scroll down. Under premises, what I know then is, that, whatever statements 2 is, I'll write statement 2 here, right? This will be statement 2, and my other premise will be statement 3, okay? So knowing that, let's go down to, it's going to then on the next page, it's going to ask me, if I scroll upwards, it's going to ask me the conclusion. And here, of course, what I would do is I'd write statement number 1. Okay. Now you could write the whole thing out, but statement, if you number the statements, you can equally do it like this, which is pretty cool and much easier. Okay. So having done that, let me go ahead and scroll that because I'm going to scroll down here. Let's scroll down here and look at the next one. When I look at this next one, it's again the same kind of thing. I said as long as civilians have the right to bear arms, I'm going to just scan it first. Okay, when I scan it, I see indicator word there. I see an indicator word here. And it looks like that. And so what else I'm going to do is I'm also going to number it. I have statement 1. I have statement 2. And I have statement 3 right there. So really the structure of the statement, the problem, I really have I have 1, right, because of 2, period, hence 3. Okay. Now, what's interesting here is, let's just pretend for a moment, okay, that hence 3 was not part of this problem. If that was not part of the problem, what you have is 1 because of 2. And what you always know is if because is an indicator word, that means number 2 will always be proving statement number 1. Okay, so that means 1 is going to be a conclusion to statement 2. Why? Because of the word because. That's how important premise indicator words are. Okay, so knowing that, if I have 1 because of 2, that means 2 is going to be proving statement 1. But notice that over here we have another section where it says hence number 3. Well, if we have hence number 3, well, we know hence is a conclusion indicator word. So really what you have for here in this particular problem, 2 is proving 1 true. But this one, if you remember in the next chapter, right, I mean, really, it's also, it may be a sub-conclusion to 2. It's also the main premise to number 3. So hence 3, when I look at this, the indicator, the premises are 1 and 2, and the conclusion is number 3. But knowing that, because I'm going to now I'm going to go move a little forward into chapter 2. When you map this, okay, you're going to have 1 because of 2. Whenever you see that structure, oh, you can't see number 2. I don't know why you can't see that. I'll see if I can, oh, there it goes. Let's go because. Can you see that? Okay, good. Because of 2. Whenever you see something like that, 2 is a premise to number 1. So when you start mapping, you realize 2 is a premise to the subconclusion 1 because of because. But then when I go back up to the problem, like up here, it really wants to conclude 3, which means it's going to go from 1 to 3. So what you really have is, you have an argument in this case where you have number 2 is acting as a really it's a premise, okay, for number 1. And then number 1 is not only a conclusion to 2, but then it acts as a premise for number 3. So in this case, 1 and 2 are technically both premises, even though one of them is acting as a sub-conclusion to another, okay? So that one's a little bit of a tricky one, especially throwing it out at you in the first chapter. Really, this should have come out in the second chapter, but nevertheless, what you know is 1 and 2 have to be premises, and number 3 has to be conclusion. Okay, but when you end up mapping it, and because of the word because, you know that whatever comes after a premise indicator word, it's always going to be proving the statement before it. Okay, so knowing that piece, let's go to the next one, and let's see. Whoops. Let's look at the next one. Let's see, I'm trying to kind of finish this one. So now when I first look at this, I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to go do it kind of like what's going through my head. I'm looking for indicator words, right? I see the word as, and when I see the word as, that typically, right, what happened there? I'm sorry, my apologies. I must have, there we go. I see the word as, which tells me as is a premise indicator word. Okay, that I know for sure. What else do I see? I see the word and, which means really knowing that I'm going to go ahead and number the statements. My first statement is you must drive to school. And then as, right, and statement number 2, most of the year it is too hot to walk. And then statement 3, there is no protection from the sun at bus stops. And then you have what? Statement 4. The bus schedule is very inconvenient. So here, traditional indicator words, I only have as. Suggestive premise, I have the word and. Notice there are no traditional conclusion and there are no suggestive conclusion. And so my premises, so when I look at this structure, I'm going to think about it in terms of like this. If I rewrite this problem, I'm really going to look at, I have 1, right, comma, as, statement 2, then I have comma, then I have statement 3, comma, and what? Statement 4. So when I look at this, that's kind of what like when I look at passages, that's what I see. I actually see that structure. And that's what I want to get at for you, is I want you to look at a passage and see the pattern inside the passage. So in this example, I have 1, as, 2, 3, and 4. This tells me absolutely, number 1 is the conclusion, because as is a premise. So that means this is, I'm saying 1 because of 2, 1 because of 3, 1 because of 4, right? And is just suggesting these are all 3 premise indicators, or premise. So under premises, I put the second statement, third statement, fourth statement. So knowing that, then I would, let's see what's next. My conclusion, well, here, I'll just say right then, my conclusion is statement number 1. You must drive to school. So notice I'm able to ascertain the pattern without even reading the passage, okay, which is pretty cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the next one. I think let's see how many we are. We're almost, yeah, so we're almost done. Good. So, again, I hope this has become very helpful for you. Again, the first thing I'm going to do is look for indicator words. Okay, so let's look at them. Going through them within 2 weeks. And then I have, I have and. Okay, being responsible. I have since. Cool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and number the statements. That's statement number 1. Okay, the statement number 2 is going to start right here. This will be statement number 3. And this will be statement number 4. So maybe I wish I could just go back 1. What does that do? Oops, that doesn't help me. Like I said, I'm getting used to this. So I think maybe I won't. Let's see if I won't circle the numbers. Let's try this. I have statement 1. Statement 2, I have statement 3, I have statement 4, and I have statement 5. So I have 5 statements. So now when I read it, what I notice is the traditional indicator words, there's only 1. There's since. Okay, I don't have any of these. Suggestive premise indicator words, I have an and. And in conclusion, I don't have any. Okay? So, and then my conclusion, what do I know is my ultimate conclusion? Well, what I do know is this. If I were to look at this whole passage, I'm going to rewrite this, okay? As though, so I'm going to have statement 1, right? You have 1, statement 1, and statement 2. And then you have period. Then you have statement 3, period. And then you have since. That was horrible. Let's try that again. Okay. And you have what? Since. You have what? 4 and, wait, no, just 4. Just 4, then 5. 4, comma, 5. Okay, so what does that mean? When I look at this, what do I know here? Since is a premise indicator words, I know this is proving number 5, right? True. So I know if I were to map it, that's going to be my conclusion. Has to be. She certainly will not be able to be responsible enough to drive a car. And I know that because 4 is going to go to 5. And I know 4, right, will ultimately prove number 5. And again, here I'm preempting chapter 2. But in this particular example, you only have to identify the premises versus the conclusion. So when I read this, I realize all those statements before 5 are working together to prove that, in this example, my daughter certainly will not be able to be responsible enough to drive a car. Okay. Now, how statements 1, 2, 3, and 4 work together, that we can do. I think this problem will appear in chapter in the next worksheet, and I'll go over that with you at that point. But just know, right, all these statements are pointing to number 5. So that's my conclusion. And let's go to, I believe, one more. We have our last one. Okay, or is that the last one? Okay, no, this is it. Okay, again, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just go ahead and look for any. Notice here, I just have the word moreover. Oh, and I have the word and. Okay, so in this example, my suggestive premise indicator words are moreover, because it's adding information, and I have and. Okay. Hey, I know, please work with me. I know my writing is not the best on this, and I know I think there was somebody, I forgot his name, but I will respond to you, and they recommended that I use the text. I don't want to use the text because it does take a while and it's a little clunky. So, but I don't know, maybe I could, I don't see the text. Where do I have, I don't see the text on this. Is that what this is? What is that? Oh, that's text. So I think, I mean, I could write the text here, but then it's hard to, I could write number 1. Okay, return. I just don't like that. So then I have this, and then I can't move it. It's hard to move it. So anyway, I don't like this idea. Writing this text is kind of, it's a little bit clunky, so I don't want to use it. Okay, so here we'll just kind of erase that. Let's just erase that. You know, I don't know why I can't erase it. So anyway, I just bear with my writing. I'll try to get better as we go. I hopefully with the verbal as well as the written, you can follow along. And now I will write. Well, let's do this. What I'll do is just label them 2. Okay. 3, 4, 5. Again, 5 statements. So what do I know here? What's interesting is statement number 1. If when I read it, I realize that this statement number 1 seems to be the statement of which 2, 3, 4, and 5 are pointing and supporting. So what that means is 1 is going to be the conclusion. Okay, statements 2, 3, 4, 5 will be my premises, and statement number 1 will be my conclusion. Okay, and here that's what CON means. It means conclusion. Okay, boom. And these are all premises, okay? And then here these numbers are just the numbers corresponding to the statements. So when I look at that, and what's key here is, of course, the word overall, and I'll get back to that, and I know that this problem also appears in chapter 2. So with that, I hope this helps you understand when you're piecing premises, pulling out premises versus conclusions, this is how you do it. Focus on the indicator words. They help build structure, and then try to see the pattern of the passage, and then break apart the premises from the conclusion. On that, I wish you well, wish you could do, and I will go ahead and create worksheet 3 video for you. So on that note, have a good night. Bye.